Hi everyone, welcome back to Trees and Turtles. My name's Imogen. In today's video I am sharing my thoughts on travelling to 11 new countries in 2 months. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to do that, give this video a thumbs up, follow me on Instagram, and let's get started. So, context, in case you are not aware and have not seen my travel vlogs, I just got back from an extended period of travel during which I backpacked around 10 new countries in Europe and then spent 2 weeks in San Francisco. So, overall I visited the following new countries. I went to Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Austria, Liechtenstein, Switzerland, Monaco, Spain, Andorra, Portugal, and of course the United States. And I had the following thoughts about it. And I've done like a lot of other videos on this, so if you're interested, check out my travel series. But without further ado, here's thought number one. It was extremely interesting. Now, that's probably quite predictable, but I feel like I crammed several years worth of travel experiences into 2 months. Now, the first trip was 10 days, and the second trip was, well, technically 14, but 15 because I had a night flight and got back the next day. So it was like, it wasn't 2 consecutive months, if that makes sense. It was like sort of 2 weeks per month for 2 months. And I do feel like I had, like, do you ever have like one of those experiences where you're watching like a really old film and the frame rate is slow and it kind of flickers? Yeah, so it kind of felt like a little bit like that at places. I was just like, whoa. But it was extremely interesting. However, it was also super tiring. I was genuinely exhausted after every trip. I think this was probably, I don't know, actually, I don't know if it was worse in Europe or if it was worse in San Francisco. In Europe, I sort of did like this city hopping type of thing where I did like a new city, a new country every day. And in San Francisco, I stayed in the same place for 2 weeks, but I did a lot of stuff in San Francisco. I don't know. I think I was more tired after San Francisco, weirdly, but that's probably because I travelled like a longer way. I don't know. It was both trips were super tiring. I was exhausted. The majority of my travel experiences were very positive, and I had a great time for the most part. I would say like 95% of my travel experiences were very positive. I mostly felt safe. I've talked about this in more detail in some of my other like Europe and San Francisco reflection videos. There were a couple of really scary experiences. I felt the most unsafe in Nice, followed by Barcelona. Those were the only 2 times that I felt really sort of like unsafe. But I want to emphasise, the majority of my travel experiences were hugely, hugely positive, and I had a great time. I do definitely feel that I got like a lot stronger and more resilient as a person from facing all the challenges which each of these trips presented me with. Now obviously, yeah, solo travel is kind of a big deal, especially since, I mean, I had solo travelled before because 2 years ago I went to a music festival in Bruges, but that was only for a weekend and it was only one destination. That was my first experience of solo travel, internationally at least. So I knew I could do international solo travel, but I hadn't done it for an extended period of time. So going on the Europe backpacking trip and going to an entirely new continent to see San Francisco was definitely a new experience, and it was a huge challenge, and I was quite nervous before setting off each time because I was like, you know, what if something goes wrong? What if I get stuck like halfway across the world? What if I can't get home? You know, all of these things that like go through your mind when you're traveling for the first time on your own. You have chronic anxiety, as I do, but I definitely got a lot stronger because when I finished the Europe trip, I was like, wow, you know, I can sort of deal with all of the complicated logistics, and they were complicated. I mean, that was my fault, but they were complicated. Complicated logistics for 10 days. I've been like away from home for a long time. I've travelled a long way, okay? And I got through it. And that actually gave me a lot more confidence to go to San Francisco, and it helped me be a lot less nervous. Like, don't get me wrong, I was still nervous, but it helped me be less nervous for sure. I also found it cool to try different styles of travel. Now, I mentioned a little bit earlier that Europe was a lot more fast-paced than San Francisco. So in Europe, I was doing a new country every day. San Francisco, I was in the same place for 2 weeks. So being constantly on the move versus being in the same place was really different. And in San Francisco, I was really taking time to get to know the city. I had a lot more chill days. Like, I had days where I just stayed in and watched Netflix. And that was okay. Like, I was allowing myself that time to relax. Because I definitely think that San Francisco was more of a holiday, and Europe was more like budget travel. Like, in Europe, I was going to a place to see the thing. and my time was taken up entirely with seeing things and then sleeping and eating when I found time. And in San Francisco, yeah, obviously my time was taken up with seeing things, but also I had a lot more time in the one place, and so I didn't feel too bad just allowing myself like a day off here and there, especially when I got tired. And it definitely made like the sightseeing the next day better. Like I remember the first day I got there, I tried going out and I was so jet lagged. I got really dizzy and just felt like I was gonna faint. So I just went back to the Airbnb and I slept it off, and I felt great the next day. So sometimes you just need a day off and it's fine. I really struggle with my emotional state at times. I've talked about this a little bit in my sort of disasters in Europe video, but I got really homesick, and as a solo traveller I sometimes felt vulnerable. Dealing with these emotions definitely made me tougher though, but they were difficult to get through at the time. I remember being in like Vienna, I've talked about this as well. I was in Vienna and I just wanted to like call off the second half of the trip and fly home because I was just really not in a good emotional place, and there were other reasons for that too, but I was also quite homesick. And towards the end of my San Francisco trip I kind of got really homesick, and I just like the last few days I just wanted to be back in the UK, and that wasn't a reflection at all on what San Francisco was like, because I absolutely loved San Francisco to the extent that I would definitely want to go back and probably even live there for like a year. But anyway, I was like, oh, I miss the UK, I miss the UK, I miss Cambridge, like I really want to come back. And I came back and it was the best feeling ever. Like I stepped off the plane and I was like, oh yes, I'm in London, this is great. But I really struggled with my emotional state at times, and I think that's normal, but it also hit me quite hard at several points. Not like immediately, but eventually. However, my final thought for this video is that I definitely don't regret it. Like, it was a lot of time, energy, and even though I travel on a budget, it was still a lot of money. But I saw so many incredible places which I'd always wanted to visit, and I like dreamed about it for years, and I feel like I developed so much emotionally during the process and matured as a person and became more resilient on all of those things that people tell you are going to happen when you travel. Definitely lived up to those expectations, so it was hugely worthwhile. Okay, those are all my thoughts on travelling to 11 new countries in 2 months. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to do that, give this video a thumbs up, follow me on Instagram. I will see you next time. Okay, bye!